Okay, dear viewers, today we are going to talk about the very important topic, that's the sustainability and the importance of sustainability in our lives, especially how we can promote it. Because when it comes to sustainable development or sustainability, many of us are not even aware of this term. So, in order to understand deeply about this term and how we can promote it, we have invited four guests in our session. So, without wasting a time, I would like you people to introduce yourself so that we can start a session. Thank you so much. Ji Kunjika.
Hello, everybody. Nice to meet you. I would like to excuse myself because I'm a bit under the weather. Just in case I'm coughing while we're talking or something, please excuse me. And other than that, I'm doing my PhD in Aix-Marseille University, France, IAE. I'm in my last year, so pretty stressful. And I'm also lecturing at IAE. I'm taking care of the CSR module. I was also an academic researcher who was engaged with Sargam. It's one of the largest research laboratories in France in terms of management, and which also takes care of environmental issues. I was engaged with them for like 3.5 years as a full-time employee, which I had access to because of my PhD scholarship. And yeah, since March, I'm just doing the lecturing, and I'm also a climate ambassador for Climate Interactive in association with MIT. And I perform En-ROAD simulation for sustainable development with them. Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much.
Okay, thank you for your introduction. Ji Mansoor.
Okay, hello everyone, and this is Mansoor Ahmad. I have done my PhD from Malaysia in 2019. My specialization is HRM, and more specifically, I will talk that let you know that my area is more related with well-being. It can be psychological well-being or mental well-being. Before doing PhD,
My experience.
I have worked in corporate sector around 12 years. So that's my brief introduction. Currently, I'm
Okay.
part of Zebes Latgana campus actually.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mansoor. Ji Kamran Saab.
Thank you, Afshan, for inviting me. I'm Dr. Kamran
Welcome.
Subro. I'm working at ZS Karachi, and basically my field of interest and research is management, leadership, and administration. And I have done my PhD from Wuhan University in China back in 2016. Since then, I have been working with Zebest, and apart from working with Zebest, I'm also associated with some sort of social entrepreneurial ventures like Thinkerstripe and Equity Development Organization. So, thank you for inviting me.
Okay, thank you so much. Actually, we have another guest too, but I'm still waiting for that. He has not joined yet. So maybe we should continue. Okay, now when it comes to sustainable development, so we see many issues because most of us are not even aware of this term. As I see, even in my own environment, many people do not so, or we only related to the environmental protection. However, it can be applied to various domains of life. So I believe that in order to understand how we can promote a sustainability, we need to understand what it is. So, how, in your perspective, how do you define sustainability or sustainable development? So we can start from maybe Kunjika.
Rather than me, it's better to take the actual aspect of what essentially sustainable development is. Though sustainable consumption and the aspects of sustainable production have been introduced for quite a few decades now, it was first officially recognized in the Brundtland Report, which mentions, quote unquote, that it is about taking care of future generations as well as whilst we use the limited resources that we have now. But to give my own personal metaphorical philosophical perspective on that, if we take an example of an apple, and if I give you an apple now, and if I tell you that this is an apple and we need to split it between the four of us, or somehow manage to eat that apple between the four of us, So I split it into half, and then I eat half of it, and then I give the pasta half to Afshan, and then Afshan eats half of it. So there's no more left for the other two of us, right? So if we imagine that I was the people like my mom and my grandparents and people before me, right? And then Afshan was someone who was currently is in this generation, and then the other two professors that we have here, they're from the future generation. Then we have no more apples left for these two professors because me and Afshan consumed it totally, right? So it's the same with sustainable development. I know when you look at an apple as an inanimate object, it's more tangible and it's easily visible. It's the same with coronavirus. Like if you don't catch it, then sometimes we don't think about it, but it still exists. It doesn't make it any less serious, or it doesn't make it that it's not out there. And with the planet, the human being is very used to tapping into what they see immediately in retrospect. So right now we're all thinking about this live session that we're having, and we're not thinking about anything. Even if there's a loud noise outside, I will think like 5 times before going outside and leaving this. So it's same with the planet. You have other stressors, you have children, you have like finances, you have like, is my child getting educated well, etc. So many things in life to consider that you forget about sustainability. But if you have a satellite view, if you look from the galaxy, you see that Earth is limited. It has limited blue, it has limited green, almost like a limited small apple of the galaxy. And when we use these limited resources and we don't take care of the future generation, that's when we're not sustainably developing. So it is to ensure that we consume as less as possible, is what I would say.
Okay. Thank you, Kunjika, for sharing your views and understanding
Thanks.
about the sustainable development.
Yeah.
Ji Kamran Saab, I would like you to shed some light on this.
Sure, sure. Rightly said by Kunjika, like it's all about the concern for others. So this is my perspective also that when we talk about sustainability, whether it's sustainability of life, sustainability of society, or as a whole sustainability of development, then there's an element of inclusivity. Like we cannot exclude others. Like we cannot be just selfish, egoistic, and with respect to our consumption, with respect to our growth and development. So when we talk about our own growth as an individual, then we have to take care of the development and growth of the society as well. So if we just skip the society and we focus on our own selves and become the selfish of our own goals and achievements, then it's going to be a hazardous activity for the society. So it's not development in fact. So when we talk about sustainability and sustainable development, basically we talk about how much we care for the fellow beings, how much we care for the community where we are living in, and how much we are concerned about their own issues and problems. Like it cannot be possible like I can survive in a very fresh air without even planting any trees in the community. So it is all about sharing your problems and sharing your success with the community. Then only then basically you can achieve the sustainability in your life and sustainability in your development. So alone you cannot go. If you want to go along, go with some others, like it may be the stakeholders in the society. So if we talk about professional life, we talk about personal life, if we talk about academic life as a professors, when we talk about sustainability, then we have to carry on our activity and progress in collaboration with others. So collaboration and inclusiveness is a main concern for sustainability.
Thank you, Kamran Saab. Ji Mansoor, how do you define sustainability, or what is your understanding about sustainability? Mansoor, unmute yourself.
Okay, am I audible now?
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you. So I was saying that, in my opinion, sustainability is more related with equilibrium or balance in terms of life, or taking care of your fellows, your colleagues, or in terms of resources. Because when we talk about sustainability, it is more related with the nourishing your future generation as well. So in terms of sustainability, actually, we consider three aspects in sustainability, like society, economics, and environment. So these all factors, when we combine all these factors, then we call it as a sustainability. So when we talk about the about the society, so in society we can talk about, or we can discuss about the standard of living, uh, your education or your basic needs, just as like jobs, equal opportunities at the workplace, are in your society. And when we talk about economics in terms of sustainability, so it is related with your growth, profit, and environment is more related with the natural resources, or conservation of your resources. Because as Kunjika discussed about like sharing apple, so it was more related with the balance or equilibrium or equity, that if two people eat out a whole apple, so there will be nothing left for the rest of members. So, in my opinion, sustainability is more related towards the balance or equilibrium.
Okay. Thank you, Mansoor. Okay.
Mhm.
As we all discussed, you have highlighted, and it shows that it is not related to only one domain of life, but it covers a lot of domains, various domains of our life. So, one personal question I would say that, do you really live a sustainable life, and what do you practice in order to ensure the sustainability? And if you do not, then it's okay, because it's okay. But if you do, then how do you practice it? So maybe we can start with Dr. Kamran.
Okay, so we are going random. Okay, so yeah, it can be, as I mentioned earlier, to me, sustainability is about long-lasting activities. It can be anything that you are doing currently, and if you see it has a long-lasting effect, then make sure you are doing a sustainable process maybe. So, from my own perspective, like as I see myself as an academician and as I see myself as a social activist, then I do realize to some extent, yes, I'm trying my heart to continuously deliver something, not just for myself, not just for my own family, maybe for the society. So it can be as a researcher, maybe as I follow the philosophy of research for society. So there's the foundation and basis for our initiative, that's Thinkers Tribe. Like we are trying to connect something like what as a professional researcher, as a professional professor. Besides performing my duties, what else I'm trying to do for the society? It's not just about planting trees. It can be about planting new ideas, thinking processes, and encouraging the community. So that's what I think I'm a part of different activities and initiatives where I'm trying to be sustainable contributor for the society. Ji.
Okay. Uh, Thank you, Kamran. Yes, Konjika.
Um,
I have seen you. I have seen you doing all these practices, but
yeah,
we all want to know.
I'm. I am. I think my professional aspect has. I've been working for quite some time now. Seriously, since the age of 16, I've been working, and my professional aspect has always been an extension of my personal aspect. I've never been too keen on doing something that I'm not genuinely passionate about as an individual. So sustainability has been the same thing. So I try to, as much as possible, rigorously be sustainable in my personal lifestyle, and that includes, but not limited to, segregating my waste. I try to compost. I only started composting a few years ago because I have a studio apartment and I didn't see the feasibility of doing that before. But I've started, Ashan doesn't know about this, but I've started composting since about 2 years ago, more or less. But before that, I used to segregate my paper. I try to use the paper as much as possible. Like, for example, now I'm a bit aggressive sometimes in terms of my behavior. So, for example, recently I wrote a letter, an official legal letter to a bank on a page that was not brand fresh new. It was already used on the backside. And I just wrote a note down below in French, bonjour, blah, blah, blah. I would like to get these things done, na, na, na. And then in the notes down below, I said, I'm recycling this paper because I can and it's more sustainable. Um, other than that, I also preach basically what I practice. So of course, thanks to Afshan, she's doing this talk on sustainability. So I have tried to, not intentionally but unintentionally, have an influence on my friend. They try to, sometimes if they're a meatitarian, they don't try to go into a vegetarian, which I am, but they try to sometimes reduce their meat consumption or their plastic consumption. So there are a lot of things. Like even recently, I switched in Pakistan, and I come from Nepal. So in our countries, Asian stuff, it's very regular for people to use soap, but for dishwashing, Vim powder, or I don't know, that sort of thing. But here in France or in other developed countries, you just have a plastic bottle, which is very, very efficient and convenient to use. So I went back to the traditional ways because I was one of this person who used to do this, but now I'm also using soap, and instead of using scrubs, I buy like a brush that has a wooden handle sort of thing that I can change instead of throwing the entire scrub each time. And then I also use soap for my hair, for example. It hasn't been an easy process to switch from shampoo. So you can always, my personal lifestyle has always been about reducing less, like consuming as less as possible and being mindful of my own carbon footprint in every aspect possible. So yeah.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you for detailed insight on this.
Yeah.
Okay, we welcome Dr. Saqib Ilyas. Uh, Saqib, can you hear me? Hello, hello, Dr. Saqib, can you hear me?
I think he has internet issues.
Yeah, I guess so. He also has internet issue. Hello, we cannot hear you. You can you please rejoin? Okay, coming to Mansoor. Mansoor,
Yeah,
yes, Mansoor.
yeah, yeah, yes. I would like to say that not exactly as you say that whether I'm following sustainability in my life or not. Honestly speaking, I will not say that that I do follow each and everything in terms of sustainability, but I would like to share regarding like contributing about the society. Like I try my best to contribute something from a society in my, even in my academics, like in my teaching. I always try to contribute something in terms of sustainability. But yeah, I have learned like during my PhD that environment is really important. So after coming back from Malaysia, so I always share my opinion about the environment, that how we can preserve or take care of our environment, so we can conserve our resources and prevent our environment from pollution of like in like using plastic bags and each and everything. So these are the things which I really practice in my regular life, but in terms of economic, I cannot say that I'm following each and everything.
Okay, thank you, Mansoor.
Yeah.
Okay, Dr. Saqib, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you all
Oh,
hear me?
yes,
Yes.
yes, we can hear
Okay.
you. Okay, welcome to the session. Okay,
Thank you so much.
we were talking about the understanding of sustainable development or sustainability, and what practices do you opt in your life. So I would like you to tell us little bit about this so that we can proceed.
All right. For me, sustainability is the process where you try to consume less and less. You try to be as
Maybe,
healthy as
sorry,
possible.
sorry, you can introduce yourself as well.
All right. I'm Saqib. Uh, I am from Pakistan. I've done a PhD in human resource management from Aix-Marseille University, France. Currently, I'm working as assistant professor in University of Central Punjab, Lahore, in Punjab. And that's all about my background. And about sustainability, I feel that sustainability is a process where you try to consume less and less. You try to take care of people around you. You try to see how things can be managed in a better manner. So it's like trying to consume less and less and try to adopt to more and more healthy things, including what you're eating, including what you're wearing, including your environment around, including the transportation you're using. So, all sorts of things. So, this is my understanding about sustainability. And what I do in order to be more and more sustainable, first of all, using water to a minimum possible extent, sometimes even reusing water. For example, when it comes to washing the house or cleaning floors, you can reuse the water that you've already used. Sometimes you've done your clothes already and you can use the same water. Sometimes you can store the water from the rain, and it's a normal practice in our house that we make use of such things, especially when I'm living in my parents, when I'm with my parents. So at that time, we have this practice. At the same time, the other things is I've tried my best to reduce the plastic material from my kitchen. So I keep on increasing the other more sustainable utensils other than plastic. So I try to reduce it as much as possible. And then the use of microwave oven, I've minimized. In my house we have a very minimum use of microwave oven. We do have, but it's just for, sometimes we use it. Otherwise we try to, make sure that we don't actually use it. So these are the few things that I do in terms of in terms of electricity consumption. I've tried in last year and a half. I've tried to change all the light bulbs into LEDs, so that the normal bulb, it consumes a lot of energy. So it's efficient for the electricity consumption. At the same time, it's very efficient, and it is very handy when you have to pay a lot of bills. So it reduces your billing amount as well. So in both ways, it works out. So these are the few things. And then with my children, I try to recycle and reuse few of the things. We have a small garden kitchen. So in that garden kitchen, I try to make use of some of the plastic leftovers that I have, some bottles. So we've got small plants and we are growing such things, a few vegetables as well. So I think all this does add to the sustainability in the end. But it's just a beginning. I know I'm not doing too much, but from my side, and plus I've started going to my office, because it's almost 2.5 kilometers from my home. So I've started using bicycle to go to my office. So these are the few things that I'm doing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sagib. Okay. Yeah. So we talked about the sustainability and some of the practices that you opt in your life. We also talked about the equilibrium balance that we need between among the humans, other living beings, and the ecosystem. So, in your point of view, what could be the starting point as an individual at our own level to promote the sustainability? Maybe we can start with Kunchika, because she's doing a lot of sustainable activities, and I have seen her doing that. So, what could be the starting point? For example, I want to live a sustainable life, and what I can do as an individual at my own level.
Um, I think that's a very interesting, but at the same time, it's a very broad question because, like I said, unfortunately, a lot of people do not understand that sustainable development is a climate change and global warming and all these negative consequences that we have on the environment are indisputable and very, very urgent, but they're not able to prioritize their stressors to sustainability because of what I mentioned earlier about factors such as like their child's education, things that happen at home. You have so many things going on in life basically that, so you have to try to think of it as I don't know if I would be able to explain it in words because I have a graphic image in my mind where you're used to taking a bus stop in a regular bus stop, which is a bit 10 minutes farther from your home, and you always catch the bus from there like 10 minutes farther from your home. It's always been that way. But then recently there has been a new one introduced, and now there is a new bus stop close to your house for the bus you want to catch, and it's literally 1 minute away from your house. But because you're so used to taking the 10-minute bus stop, you don't even realize, or you're not even aware that now there's a bus stop that's 1 minute away. That's exactly what sustainability is. You are so used to having a standard lifestyle that you no longer realize the importance of transitioning in a low carbon emission environment. It's just a simple way of explaining it in layman's terms. So I would suggest that you, first of all, try to see it as an ethical aspect, almost like maybe, for example, if it helps you not to steal something. The society has established that thievery and robbery and all these aspects are not okay. These are not societal aspects. You shouldn't do these. These are unethical practices. So we need to think of, first of all, sustainability as like the Apple example that I gave earlier, something that you are stealing from the future generation, even though it's not legally recognized yet, unfortunately. The scientific facts do not disagree with this aspect. So first is that you have to think of it in an ethical way, that if I'm doing something very, very unsustainable and I know that it's very unsustainable, then I should try to take it in that perspective, that I'm stealing from my children or my grandchildren, in many ways. Because when things come at home, then you become more serious rather than other people's children or the planet's children. When you think about your own, then people have the tendency to, first is that. The second thing is it really depends on you. Because I'm very passionate about this subject, it is something that is extended to almost all areas of my life as much as possible, but for someone who's starting off new, try to start with the easiest thing, because psychologically, habit is something, a new habit always takes a bit more energy, a bit more effort to do. If even if it's a bad habit, if you've always been drinking so much, or you've always been smoking so much, I know you don't have that in your culture in Muslim, but for the rest of the world, it's very, very normal. If you're at a party, you drink and you smoke, and that's how you enjoy, right? That's how it's been. But even to break this habit, it takes a lot of energy in the beginning. Oh, okay, even workout. I want to work out. I'm gaining weight. I want to go to the gym. But today I have XYZ number of things. So tomorrow. So try to do something that takes less willpower. Maybe something as simple as, okay, today I'm going to recycle one paper. Is that the easiest thing for you to do? Or would it be easier for you to switch your a shampoo to a more sustainable one? Or would it be easier for you to do your laundry, not because you wore something once, but because it actually needs washing? Because human beings, we transpire in different ways, right? We don't sweat in the same way. So I don't necessarily wash my clothes because I don't sweat that much. So I don't necessarily wash my clothes once I use it. I wash it when I think that it needs to be washed. So I wear it multiple times, but we don't think about these aspects. But these are simple things that we can think of introducing. Or even your diet. Maybe is it easier for you to not have meat 3 times a day? And red meat, there is increasing scientific evidence that it is associated with increasing cardiovascular diseases, for example. So what is good for the planet is also good for you. And it's not an opinion, it's a scientific fact. What is good for the planet is also. So maybe you could try to reduce the meat consumption from, if you have it 10 times a week, then you're going to be like, okay, I'm only going to have meat like once per day. Or then you can be like, I can do it like 3 times a week, or whatever is comfortable to you. So just try to do what is easier to start off, so that, and then you can, and always think that about the future generation thing. So these are the two things I would recommend. It's easier to start off on as an individual.
Yeah, very good point. The integration of ethical values in our activities, in our daily activities, which is very important, and it gives me an idea to study the sustainability from ethical perspective.
Yeah.
Okay. Now coming to Dr. Kamran, uh, in your point of view, what could be the starting point uh, in order to promote the sustainability?
Yeah, yeah, sure. I think before we start acquiring new habits, we have to get rid of bad habits. So that's the main challenging part here. Like we know there are good practices, best practices, bad habits, and good habits. But what basically we need to is to take initiative from our own selves, and that's what comes with the realization that what we are doing is not right. It's going to harm not just me, but maybe the people around me, the dear ones, my family, the society at large. So just like we have best practices at the organization and there are some motivating factors, rewards and such perks and benefits. So similarly, we have to present some rewards and benefits to ourselves. Like if I'm switching from bad practices to good practices, like if I'm going to be careful consumption, I'm going to have a careful consumption of things that I have been badly doing. Maybe excessive use of anything which is hazardous, like excessive use of air conditions in our houses. Maybe if we get rid of that, we can enjoy fresh air if it's comfortable for us. And apart from that, we have to realize the cost that we are going to bear for the bad things and the bad habits that we have been doing basically. So, Akshay, the main problem is the realization. We don't realize what we are doing. So, I would suggest first we have to realize that the things that we have been doing unconsciously. So most of the things that we do, they are followed by the others. We are inspired. We look at others in the society, they are doing the things like, and we just want to do that. So without realizing the bad effects. So the first thing is realization. And secondly, what I think is basically we had to acquire the perspective of system thinking approach. And what is system thinking approach? This is the corporate world approach where we think every individual matters. So it's not like if I say, okay, if I'm doing this, so how it's going to affect the whole system, the society. So this negative thought, like minimizing our own value, like we are saying, okay, if I'm just one person who is doing, and other perspective like, okay, if I change myself, what will happen? So these are two different perspectives, and these are two motivators for the people. They are just doing what they're doing. So we have to realize we are the important part of the society, and if we are doing something wrong, it's going to affect the society at large. And meanwhile, if we are doing something positive, starting by ourselves, then it is going to have positive impact for society. So that's what I wanted to say for this.
Okay, thank you, Kamran. Yeah, realization is very important. And I would say this is the initial step that when we realize we will take a step further. So, yes, Mansoor, in your point of
Yes,
view, what could be the starting point to create a balance between humans, other living beings, and the ecosystem?
actually, as we know that actions speak louder than words, so we have to start doing by our own selves. Because if we will do each and everything, whatever we do, so we have to show people that we are practicing in our life. Until or unless we will not do anything by our own selves with, so nobody will follow anything that what we are saying to someone, because actions have more impact on the minds of individuals rather than the words or the message we are spreading. So we have to believe that in terms like one of the example is like planting trees. So if we start planting trees in our society or our in our neighborhood, so people might inspire by seeing this thing, this activity. So that's how you can inspire your people, the people who are living in your surroundings. So in my opinion, that rather than like sending message or saying words to people that okay, this these are the benefits of sustainability, or what you can get in future, or how we can preserve our resources. So it's better to start practically whatever we are doing. So it would bring change, and it will definitely put really good impact on the minds of the society or our neighborhood. So that's the thing, in my opinion.
Thank you. Thank you, Mansoor. Okay, coming to Dr. Saqib. Uh, Saqib, unmute yourself. Yeah.
All right. So for me, I think the beginning is from the perspective of awareness, that how we can actually start realizing the fact that the people around us require some things which we might have in abundance, and we are not to consume everything that we have. So once you start with the awareness of the fact that you have other species living around you as well, including plants and animals, so slowly and gradually you'll start realizing these things, and I think this will be a very good start. And then moving on further, the most important thing would be, I suggest that if we can start with healthier living, healthier eating, I think it will be a very plus point for all of us, because it will be more healthy, it will be much better. And I think nobody wants to have bad food for themselves or their families. So I think if we start from a very basic habit of leaving a specific kind of food, and moving to some healthier food with more greener vegetables and stuff, I think that will be a very good start. It will and the situation around us also dictates all these things, that we have to move to a healthier living style in terms of our eating habits especially. Otherwise, there are a lot of different viruses going on around, which we can catch and get into a lot of trouble.
Thank you. Thank you, Saqib.
Hello, Arsha. Can I
Can
just
you?
add
Yeah.
something?
Yes, of course you can.
I was just thinking when Saqib said about the awareness aspect. It's not that easy actually, because like we are already quite aware that it's not good for the environment. Again, I give an example of a bad habit, the smoking and drinking.
Yeah.
You are actively aware that it's not good for your health.
Mm.
You still do it. You're very, very aware that it's not good for you. But that's why we're not able to make much of a sustainable transition, unfortunately, to low carbon economies. And we're still running a high carbon economy despite what we've seen, like the coronavirus, obviously, is a great persistent example. And we're going to have, there's increasing scientific evidence that we're going to have more and more infectious diseases in the future, like there was a report by the World Economic Forum recently. It's called the Global Risk Report 2020, and it shows that the likelihood of environmental consequences and the impact of environmental consequences are very, very high, as opposed to other consequences such as societal or other aspects. But I think it's very important to maybe study further and try to, because we are researchers and that's what we do. It's very complex to, there's a very adamant, stubborn gap between intention and behavior. And we need to try to see how we can narrow this gap, because I think at this point, everybody is aware of climate change and global warming. And even if they don't understand how exactly it works and what is actually happening, what does it mean when the Earth's temperature has passed 1.5 degrees? What is the Anthropocene? What is the Holocene? They don't understand this, but they're still very, very aware what is like we are in a very dire situation when you need to take care of the sustainable aspect of the planet. But there is a gap between the intention and the behavior, and it's just an opinion, because I, like, again, without research we can't say it for sure, but I think we really need to work on why we are, and then you can shift. The why should be, it's for any bad behavior, I'm going to stop smoking tomorrow, but your why is not strong, so you don't. I'm going to go to the gym, so your why is not strong, so you don't go to the gym, right? I'm going to eat healthy. So we really need to find out, like, we really need to have each of us our own very, very strong why, and only then we can transition. Because I think we're all really aware at this point. Everybody knows that the world is not doing well. It's evident. Like, we have somebody who's had coronavirus. It's an aspect of environment too, because we're getting closer and closer to wildlife and other habitats and other species, right? So I think we need to
Exactly.
find our why.
I just want to add one thing. When I say
Mm.
about the awareness, it's not actually the awareness itself, but it's about the awareness that where we start taking actions accordingly. So awareness is for we all are aware. Yes, I agree with you. But Kunjika, the point is that awareness in such a way that it also derives to a positive action accordingly, so that we can actually start taking one step at least towards that. So if that's not the case, then our awareness won't be of any use. So what we can do is, for example, I try to do such things with my kids, or with we can start this kind of education system where we inculcate these values and ethics, so that we
Yeah.
start taking care of the society altogether. It's not just our house, or it's not just our street or neighborhood. It's every place. So you find any person around who needs some help, you run for it. you know so such kind of things. So they will actually convert the behavior, and of course it will take a lot of time, and slowly and gradually we can move on to such positive habits, I guess.
Mm.
Okay, thank you. Any one of you who wants to add anything is welcome to add. Otherwise, we can go to the
I
next.
mean, it's such a complex issue.
Yeah.
It takes like I'm sure like everybody has something to add. Otherwise, we would have already transitioned by now. But it's sustainability is unfortunately very simple and at the same time very complex. So
and and,
Yeah.
and with all the how to say, luxuries around us, it's very hard for us to actually look back. And some people, they say sustainability is more about going back to the stone age, maybe, things like that, where we used to live in small societies and small sectors and taking care of everybody around, and protection stuff. So
mhm.
it's not an easy job. It will take a lot of time, but I think we, being academicians, should look into what sustainable research is, how we can actually contribute to sustainability, how we can link the gap between the very learned people around us and people who do not have much concept about
Hmm.
research, things about that, how can they actually. So last time I remember a month ago, I went to a small session here in a government university in Lahore. Uh, it, it was about kitchen gardening. So there's a lot going on, but at the same time, the people who were there, some of them, they did not knew what actually the concept is, how we can move from how this is part of the sustainable process. So these things are sometimes very difficult to actually see around us in the society. uh, when I talk about, for example, if I talk about the example of India, uh, you see the government have their own preferences. For example, one place they're launching a space program. At the same time, there are a lot of people who do not have the basic necessities of toilets. So Russia has its own problems. So all big nations have problems, and we, being part of the developing nations, Pakistan, Nepal, for example, Bangladesh, Indonesia, all these countries. So we are already we are in a disadvantaged situation. So it I think it requires the individual contribution in order to make the system work out. If we keep on looking at what the government will do, what the new policy will be, how sustainable the country itself is moving towards, it will never going to happen. So we have to start from somewhere.
Good, good. Actually, thank you, Dr. Sakib. It was really good. I have a question actually because I am well aware about this thing as you people were talking about awareness and the good habits and bad habits. So I always I wonder that how we can transform ourselves, like shifting from bad habits towards good habits. So I always think about this thing. Is it easy or difficult to? transform your bad habits to good habits? Because
Uh,
yes.
Mansoor Sab, I would say it's kind of an impossible thing to move from one habit to another one, and I mean, you really have to push yourself, and you start doing the good thing, but then your inner is like, you were so much punctual and you were so much in that bad thing. Why not to get start doing it again? So you become lazy sometimes. So it's like a continuous process. I would say, in terms of the previous question, another thing pops up in my brain is that any little deed towards sustainability that you can do regularly would contribute a lot. Any little deed, but it is regular that you're doing every day. So I think it will really add value after some time.
I think I would like to
Yeah.
add to that. I recently read a book on habits because I'm interested myself. Of course, we have an extensive list of bad habits. All of us agree in our life in some way. Maybe we might be better than others in certain degree, but we do have bad habits.
Yeah.
Opening a bag of chips and finishing it off is a bad habit. It's not as bad as smoking, but it's still junk food, for example. So I read a book recently. Unfortunately, I don't remember the part of the brain, but there is a part of the brain. It's called basilic gamma, something like that. This is not the right one. Um, and then this is a part of the brain which encourages you to sort of follow the same thing again and again. For example, if I'm sure like all of you drive, so when we're driving for the first time, it takes a lot of energy and effort to think that, okay, here's my gear, here's the rear view mirror, especially when you're backing the car. It's a lot of effort for a first time driver. Here's the mirror, here's the rear view mirror, here's the side mirror, here's the side light, here's the gear 1, 2, 3. Okay, I need to put reverse gear, and then I need to check that nobody's coming out when I take my car out of the garage so that I don't cause an accident. There's so many things to think of. So the brain, this portion of the brain, which I unfortunately forget, it actually enables us to be more efficient. So that's why we no longer think these things. You're almost in an auto mode when you're driving. You switch your gear automatically. You could talk to a friend at the same time. You could do multiple things at the same time, so you sort of multitask. So that is the portion of the brain that allows you to be efficient, so that otherwise you have to put so much mental energy every time. You would be exhausted as a human being, right? Thanks to this portion, it saves us so much time and energy, and we can focus on other new things. And I mentioned this aspect because there were quite a few experiments that this book discusses. And there was an experiment on monkeys, I believe, and they were set up in a lab. And every time they did something exactly the same thing on the computer, they would get a treat and they would enjoy that treat. And then they repeated. They didn't understand it in the beginning, the monkeys, but eventually they understood that if I press this button and if I do this and do this exactly, follow these 1, 2, 3 steps, on the third step, I would have a treat, right? And then they would get agitated. Eventually, the researchers started to stop giving them this treat, even when they did this. And we have this in psychology, we call this the classical conditioning. I remember reading it as a child. And when you're conditioned like that, the monkey was agitated because they were conditioned to receiving this treat in this way. So it's the same with bad habit. And one of the ways that you can break it, which is suggested in the book, and I've tried to practice it in my daily life, is to follow it up with something simple. So, for example, if you want to work out in the morning, you want to start working out in the morning, you would prepare everything the night before. So you sleep at, let's say, 10 p.m. and you wake up at 6. You want to wake up at 6 a.m. and start working out before you go to work. So you wake up, if you want to wake up at 6 a.m., you prepare your gym, your gear and everything, and you then next day you sort of have to. But you have to break the cycle, and the brain, because of this lobe, it encourages us to continue the vicious cycle. So one way to do that is to realize that we have this, and it's the mind that's playing games with us, literally, and that we have to realize that, okay, there is a possibility to. And the why should be very, very strong. That's why I also talked about the why on sustainability earlier. We digress a little bit away from that, but whatever you want to do, your why should be always very, very strong. Otherwise, there will always be this gap between the intention and the behavior. it's also the ethical decision making process. In the ethical decision making process, you have a moral awareness, and then after moral awareness, you have moral judgment. Okay, I am aware of climate change. I don't know, it's really true. It could be a hoax. There are people who still think this. I have been approached by people who still think it's a hoax. So there's moral awareness. Then you've got the moral judgment. Yes, this is the right thing to do, or no, this is not. Then you skip the rest of the process and you, unfortunately, and then you have moral intention, and then finally you have the moral behavior, right? So these are 4 different aspects. We must, each of them are separate in their own way, and none of them is a guarantee that you will reach the behavior, right? And it's the same for bad habit. You have to have just the intention is not enough, and once you do it, then the mind is with you, right? And once you do something you don't enjoy, you just have to get to the gym. After you're at the gym, you're on your own, like you're motivated to do it. So once you do it, your mind is with you. But until and unless, then your mind is not with you. So yeah,
Yeah.
maybe that helps you.
Aksha, I would like to add something to
Yeah,
Mansoor's.
I was about to ask you.
Yeah, because we are talking about habits and talking about books. So I also have a book to suggest to all, and maybe especially to Mansoor. That's about changing habits. It's Atomic Habits by James Clear. Atomic Habits. So in this book, particularly, the author is trying to differentiate between good habits and bad habits. And the important things, basically, he is giving some sort of laws how to change from good to bad, and how to get rid of bad habits. So if you just look at them, so there are 4 different elements. Like if we're talking about how to break bad habits, so we have to make it invisible. Like there are certain things we are doing visibly, like they are very much visible to us, visible to all, and everybody is doing it. And if we make it invisible, then there are chances we are going to rid of that. And the second point is make it unattractive. So there are so many things that we are doing which are not sustainable for us, for society. They are basically we are doing because they are attracted to us. Like we are using automobiles, going to offices and different places. Even if we are single, even if we are alone persons traveling, we could go by public transport. So why we are doing it? Because it is attractive for us. We are just trying to feel. We just feel like good traveling in the car. And the third thing he's suggesting about breaking the bad habits is like make it hard. Don't make it easy. If the things are around you, you can easily do it. So if you just get rid of the things, make it hard for you to achieve these things in your surroundings, get rid of that, and maybe easily you can avoid the bad habits. And lastly, make it unsatisfying. So if we think the things are satisfying, we are satisfied with doing all these things. Basically, we will continue it. So these 4 things are about the bad habits. So if we really want to get rid of these bad habits, we need to apply these 4 practices. And if we look at the activities in the book, they are given exercises that can help us really to get rid of our bad habits. Thank you.
Thank you. Mansoor,
Thank you. Yeah, yes. Thank you so
do
much,
you have,
everyone. Yeah. No, actually, I was asking in terms of
yeah,
society because
yes.
you know that it's really difficult to change the habits of
Yeah, of
people who
course,
are
of course.
living around us. So it was my
Yeah.
question was like for the audience want to
Of course.
Yes,
change
yes,
their
of course,
habits.
we
Yes, so
understand.
it is, yeah, yes,
Of
yes,
course,
yes.
we do understand this.
Okay.
Like I have seen many
Thank you.
people using, I have seen many people using the papers, and every time they use a fresh paper. And I try not to use a fresh paper and just use the already used paper. And I also
No,
think about other practices like in terms of consumption and in terms of recycling. So these habits we need to develop, and of course there are some bad habits which needs to be shifted to positive habits. So now coming
I,
to the profession. Yes, yes, you
I
want to
just
say?
want I just want to add an example. My father
Yeah.
used to every time tell me that you guys have whenever he used to see us writing and we leave some space in the end and move on to the next page, maybe a line or two. So every time he used to see us doing our homework, he used to tell us that when in our times what we used to do, we used to consume the paper to the maximum. We used to write down on the paper front side, back side with a lead pencil, and after that, when the notebook was already complete and full, we used to write down with a pen after that, because the writing of the lead pencil, it fades away. after some time. So he used to tell us then that again we used to use the same notebook for another time. So you guys are making it a luxury now. So I remember that example, and now when the things they come around and we see all these things happening all around us. So I really realized those examples which were given to me by my father.
Okay. Thank you, Sakib, for sharing this experience. Now coming to our profession, specifically, as we all are researchers and academicians, so how can we promote the sustainability, especially the goals, Sustainable Development Goals of United Nations, being a researcher? Because when it comes to sustainable development, we do a research on that and we talk about green practices and everything. We talk about sustainability, but when it comes to the implementation, as Sakib already said, that we are aware of many of the practices that need to be done, but when it comes to the implementation, we lack in that. So what could be done, being a researcher, being academicians, what is our responsibility in order to promote the sustainability? Maybe we
All
can
right.
start. Okay,
Maybe.
Sakib.
All right.
Yeah, yeah.
Last year we had a program from United Nations Development, UNDC, United Nations Development Corporation, I guess. So UNDC had a program in which it was more about they designed the entire program specifically for faculty and teachers working in Pakistan. So the first step of that program was that it was developed in order to train the faculty so that they can further train their students. So the first part of the program was the development and inculcation of local examples in that program, in terms of ethics, in terms of good habits, in terms of sustainability, in terms of taking the right actions in the society. So all these things. So that program was first of all developed by one of the one or two business schools in Lahore, and then it was our university at UCP Business School was the first one to actually go for that training. So it was a very intensive, I guess, more than a month of training, and we were giving presentations and we were giving lectures on the specific examples which were very much related to the Pakistani perspective. And those workshops, they were broadcasted in 27 different countries. So I feel that these steps should be the first ones that we really need to when we say that we need to prepare the youth, or we need to as academicians we need to bring these things to the society. So the first thing is that we have to really change the system, and we have to really inculcate this element of sustainability in each and every aspect that we are teaching. So we talk about green human resource management, we talk about green practices on in organizations, we talk about sustainability all around in very different patterns and elements, even societal aspects as well. So I feel that we really need to have such programs. We should push for in our own capacities where we are working. We should push for such programs which can actually develop the agents who then will actually work in a very large scale and develop the overall will actually change the thinking patterns. So that's what I feel, that this is the place where we can contribute actually.
Okay, thank you, Sakib. Ji, Dr. Kamran.
Ji Afsha, I must say our profession is perfect for creating awareness and maybe awareness for implementation also. It's so if we talk about awareness, it's a comprehensive term. It's not just about creating awareness about the sustainability and sustainable production and consumption. It is also about the practices and habits. So what I also think is just like Dr. Sakib said, it's also about the mindset. So what we can do as teachers in the classrooms, we can inculcate this mindset in the students, what's right and what's wrong. And apart from that, we can initiate some sort of capstone projects as a part of our research activities, research assignments that we give to our students. And those activities basically must be pro-society. They must have some concern for society. They can be some sort of CSR. And in this way, we can develop some change agents who can go into societies and then further create awareness, and that awareness would be by showing through practices. So maybe our students in the groups, they can carry out research activities, they can go to communities, they can create awareness about the less consumption of water, careful consumption of water, and all sustainable development goals that are mentioned are the 17. So out of those 17, I think there is the role of youth and youngsters to implement them. Like if we talk about the collaborative development, there's a term of co-production in public administration, like we produce the public services in the partnership of the communities. So the partnership for the goals is the 17th goal, and this goal can be achieved with the help of students, assignments, and projects, where we link the industry and academia, and where we create link between industry, academia, and the society. So this is a triangle that we can create, and together it's like partnership and collaboration, we can achieve the sustainable development goals. So that's what I wanted to say.
Thank you, Dr. Kamran. Yes, Dr. Mansoor, what would you say on this? What are our responsibilities being an academicians, researchers?
Okay, I agree with Dr. Kamran that we should start from our classroom, because what I do usually that whenever I get time, I do share something about the sustainability or bring awareness about the what is good for you, or what is good in society, what is bad in society. So we must start from the classrooms, because this is the platform where once you will start, definitely if you share your opinion with 10 students, so definitely we cannot say that all of 10 of the students will share this point of view with each and everyone. But if 5 students are going to share your thoughts or something good with their colleagues and in the society or their family members, so definitely it will bring the change. And also another thing is I would like to add is related with like how to create the awareness, how to uh, make sure that people learn something about the sustainability. So the first initiative is like organizing different workshop or webinars. So we have to frequently look into this thing that can contribute for our society, contribute for the our institution. And being a researcher, we must add some value in terms of like contributing how we can participate by sharing our thoughts, what we know, what kind of knowledge we have about the sustainability. If we will not share anything regarding sustainability, so definitely nobody will understand the importance of sustainability, and nobody will bother that what is really important for us in terms of sustainability.
Thank you, Mansoor.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes, Konjika.
Asha, thank you for this difficult question. I find that it's a very difficult question because it's, there are an exhaust a lot of ways that we can do this as researchers, but at the same time, the question would be the most effective because we don't have the time to, do it slowly. And as Dr. Mansoor said, I agree with him, and that's why I was smiling because it was almost like he read my mind. Because when I go to class and when I teach my students, and I'm always thinking that if I give my best and try to make them explain exactly what is happening and really break down everything so that they would utterly understand what's happening, then it would bring a change in maybe one kid in the class or two students, or like he said, like 10, maybe 5 would be encouraged. That's an age. But again, in class, I think we also have the tendency to discuss a lot of times in an exploratory way. So we explain things in what, but we don't tell them how, And I think that's sometimes a limitation of academia, because we're always like, this is what is happening and this is why it's happening, but we don't tell them in practical. And that's why when we write articles, we have the managerial implications, and this forces you to, because sometimes theory and practice might differ in many ways. And it's also something that the Sustainable Development Goals, the United, because one of the professors here mentioned it earlier. So I was thinking, even with the 17 Sustainable Development Goals with the United Nations, it's very crystal clear, and they break down what each of the goal is. Like, for example, I think number 1 is zero hunger, number 2 is no poverty, number 11 is responsible, that kind of thing. But they don't tell you how to implement it. If you look at the report, if you read the report, there is nothing on the I'm criticizing, but that's how we improve, right? There are a lot of things on the sustainable goals, and it tells us, it spreads awareness, and it tells us what we are supposed to do. And zero hunger, this has been going on for a very long time, and we still have people in this 21st century, we still have people who are dying of hunger, unfortunately, still. So they don't tell you how we can implement these things. They just tell you that these are the goals, but there isn't an extensive list of this is how we're going to execute the goals, and it's a lot of process to do. And as a researcher in class, we can have active pedagogy. At least that's what I try to do. I try to speak with my students and at the same time, of course, make them do things and learn. Because if you remember when we were walking out together for the first time, when you look at me, you copy it, but when you do it, actually, then you actually know what exactly you're doing. So they need to know how they can do these things in real life, why they not just like what. And I try to help reduce the pollution in class as well, in terms of active pedagogy. So I try to tell them that there's a lot of gray area in sustainable development, and sometimes it's not very crystal clear what exactly to do. Like, for example, we know that if we have solar panels, this is more efficient than using electricity, because sun is unlimited. As long as there's galaxy and there's a solar and everything, we'll always have sun, right? The solar panels we can always use them, it's unlimited. But and we don't have to use electricity. But at the same time, we don't know we're still learning. Like, for example, if we go to the bathroom, and if I want to wash my hands, and I wash my hands, now do I use the paper towel to dry my hands, or this is more like first world problems rather than our Asian problems, So when I wash my hands, do I dry it with paper, or do I use the machine, And I'm sure like somebody has done the research on maybe which has more CO2 emission. But when you're in an organization and when you put in a society all these things together, it becomes hard to know which exactly has less carbon emission. Some things are very clear, like it's better to take better to take a train versus it's better to ship things versus taking a flight, or it's better to take a bus instead of taking a ship, and it's better to cycle instead of
And then
and it's better to walk. Like these are things, but for many things we don't know, and it's a complex process of figuring out which one has more carbon footprint and So I think as researchers, we should not only be passive, because academia is a passive way. We just go to class and we tell students what to do, how to do it, and make them learn things, right? But at the same time, if we can actively engage, and for example, thanks to Afshan for this beautiful webinar that we have today, or actively engage in sort of maybe consulting, or maybe engage with the United Nations or something like that, I think that would really help us reduce the pollution that we have in terms of sustainability. Because there are a lot of organizations who claim that they are sustainable, but there is a lot of greenwashing, and we don't know exactly how to pinpoint the greenwashing, for example, right? And one great way is to figure out that sometimes they just use the aesthetics. They're just like, oh, eco green, something, green something, and everybody would believe, wow, this is sustainable. Like Body Shop is a great example of this. Like, its ads are so related to the social issues, and we care about the women, and body shaming is a no. And then their ads are also related to the environment. We're doing forestation, and at the same time they sell things such as body baths, So it's really bubble baths, I think it's called, the soap that you put in the shower. I don't know, girls use this, and then it explodes, and you have this glitter and and then you use so much water in bathtubs are more inefficient than stand-up showers, right? And Body Shop promotes this. So we need to have a holistic approach, not just a brand that has a few sustainable products, but a brand that is sustainable. It has a brand substance, not just an image. And that's why it's a very difficult question to tackle as researchers. But I would conclude by saying that we should try to actively and passively engage as much as possible in whatever ways we can. And
Yeah,
that's it, I guess.
yeah, yeah. That's important. We have to engage ourselves. We have to take a small step. That's important. So anything else? Any one of you wants to
Can
add
I
in
add?
this? Because yeah, sure.
Uh, I think all the academicians we're working for different universities.
Mm.
I think all of us are aware about the new sustainable ranking of universities that New Zealand has recently launched, and a lot of universities are moving toward that. We have a fully functional one of the first one in Pakistan, a fully functional solar university campus in Lahore. I would really encourage if anybody wants to, visit. Uh, your guys are more than welcome. We have a
But
new
present, our
sustainability
university.
development department, and we are, we are trying to, link the strategic goals with the sustainability elements. And every month we have a few seminars and workshops, and we are moving towards taking steps in order to be part of the ranking first of all, and then gradually increase the number. I think there's a Korean university and a university from New Zealand, Auckland University. These are the top ranked universities in the sustainable university ranking. I think it's a very good step where we can have a lot of audience as well, and slowly and gradually we are moving towards the sustainable element. But like Kunjika just said about United Nations and the targets, those targets are pretty far away. I remember they wanted to reduce hunger to 50% uh, until
By
2015, and then
mm,
in 2015 I read a report, and it was another 12% increase instead of going down to half. So those things, those how to say, those reports are they do not apply to a lot of different nations. Some like I told you another example recently. I talked about an example before that. India, on one hand, the basic things are not there, but at the other hand,
mm,
they're doing maybe a space mission or things like that. So we really need to decide
mm.
what we want to do
Priority. Yeah,
as
priorities.
yeah. So I think we should create awareness. This is a very good platform, and it's the first time I'm part of this sustainable talk. So I would really encourage, and I would really try to, because we have a lot of resources in our disposal. I'm sure you all have. We've got slots on the radio channel that we have, and then we also have an internet television broadcasting going on. So from UCP. So I would really appreciate, and I'll try to make awareness through those platforms. And I think we all can contribute little by little, and eventually it will add. Eventually we'll have something.
Thank you, Dr. Saqib, for adding all this information. Of course, we need to prioritize many things in our life in order to ensure the sustainability. Any of you who wants to add anything to this, because we are going to end this session. If you have any message for the public, for the viewers who are listening to us, Dr. Okay, okay, sure. You want I start?
No,
Okay,
Everybody wants to
I
contribute.
wanted to. Okay,
Dr. Mansur, Dr. Kamran.
Dr. Kamran, Dr. Kamran.
Thank you, Gul. Thank you very much. First of all, thank you for inviting this wonderful session and important topic. And of course, the message is simple that we have been discussing throughout the session today. We have to initiate by ourselves. If we are doing bad habits, we have to get rid of that. And if we are doing good habits, we have to promote them. And we have to encourage our colleagues, our friends, our family to follow that. And of course, it's all about systems thinking. It's not alone. We alone can be a major part of the community and society, so we should not undermine ourselves, and we should initiate by ourselves about the good habits, and that's going to be sustainability for society, sustainability for development, and of course it can have sustainable effects. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Kamran. Yes, Dr. Mansoor.
Yes,
Any message
yes,
for,
yes,
yeah.
yes, Dr. Gul. Thank you so much for inviting me for such a wonderful topic. Actually, my message is very simple that think about your future generation. Because if you will start thinking about your future generation, definitely you will start like you will start thinking about depletion of resource in each and everything, and you will start thinking about the sustainability as well. So start thinking about your future generation. So that's my simple message.
Thank you. Yes, Kunjika.
I agree with what Dr. Kamran and Dr. Mansoor had said. But I would like to urge whoever's watching this that every time you do something, I would want you to think of this image when you can, which is right now what is happening is the Earth's temperature is rising, right? And if we imagine that we're living in a coastal area, and then the Earth's temperature is rising and the ice is melting. And because the ice is melting, the sea levels are rising, right? And because the sea levels are rising, we are losing islands. Like there are a lot of Cook Islands. They're close to, I think there are 15 islands governed more or less by New Zealand. And it's just an example, but there are many, many islands. So even in Marseille, for some of us who have lived in the south of France, Afshan, Sakib, when the sea levels are rising, the coastal areas get affected most, right? And then if I have a house very close to the sea, then I will be obliged to, I will not have a choice but to move from that space because maybe there's flood. And this actually happened even in Germany, China, like recently when we saw the flood events, and there are a lot of events around the world. For those who are reading the news, it's ample enough to realize this. But anyway, and then the sea levels are rising, and then if I have a house, then I will have to move and I become a climate refugee, right? This is a new term that's going to be more and more pertinent in the future. So I will have to move as a climate refugee because my house was flooded because I was in the coastal area. And then I will have to take my kids with me, for example, who will have to lose their friends, and that might create a lot of psychological impact on their growth. Maybe I might have to change my job, so I might have to quit this job and then find another job. So it actually impacts my life directly. I would urge everybody to think whatever is happening in terms of unsustainable consequences around the world, how this directly impacts you, because it always, I guarantee you, it always impacts you directly. Maybe not now, but eventually it always impacts you directly. So that's what I want to say. And thank you so much, Afshan, for doing this. Hopefully we will have more of this in the future. I really enjoyed this conversation,
Yeah,
and to all the
thank you.
professors that were here. And yeah,
Welcome. And I knew that you have a lot to say about this topic. That's why I invited you. Okay, Dr. Sakib.
All right. My message to everybody who's listening is very simple, that we have to come out of this dilemma that someone else will come and save us. We really need to look into these things. And the small things which we normally say that they do not matter, actually they do matter. So we really need to think about what we're doing, all the actions we're taking, how it will contribute in a positive or a negative manner, how negative it might be, how consequential it might be for some of the people around us. And how better it might be for the future generations, the actions that we're taking. And I think we should contribute in even if we are contributing very minor, we have to start with something, and we have to really realize this fact that nobody's coming to save us. It's going to be us in the end. So we are the saviors. So that's all from my side.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Saqib. Anything else that you want you people to add? Otherwise, I'm
I
okay.
really appreciate everybody's contribution, and I really hope that we'll have some regular talk session, at least a month, every month, so we can add to these things and all the steps that we are taking, steps that are being taken, around us, and how we can actually. So it's kind of a, we all are aware, we know that it's kind of a reinforcement for all of us, that we keep on, pushing each other to take these steps. So that's all from my side. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Saqib. Thank you, every one of you. It
Thank
was
you.
really an interesting session. And the conclusion could be like, we need to build a culture of sustainability, but we all know that it's not an easy. But we can take a small steps in order to ensure the sustainability. And jaise ki, as already said by Saqib Ilyas, Dr. Saqib, that we have to have this mentality that no one else is going to come and save us. We have to save and save others as well. Just like a COVID example, we can say we
Yeah.
have to save ourselves as well as the environment and other people. So we have to
Where's
think
my
not
mask?
only about ourselves, but we have to think about other living beings and the ecosystem as an overall. So that was the that is the end of this session. Hope you all enjoyed, and
That's good.
anybody who is watching us can suggest any topic that they want to listen, and they want to have some discussion and webinar, they can suggest us. And lastly, I would say that even if 3 to 4 people after watching this webinar adopt some sustainability practices, that would be the success of this webinar, like recycling,
Exactly.
thinking about the consumption, limiting the use of resources in order to ensure the sustainability. Okay, lastly, I would like to wish Kunjika a happy birthday in advance. It's her birthday tomorrow, so happy birthday,
Happy
Kunjika.
birthday.
Thank you so much.
This time
Thank
I'm
you
not
for this
there.
birthday gift. It was very nice. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Okay,
Thank
goodbye.
you, guys. Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Have a good evening, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Allah Hafiz.
Love you.